It was a warm spring day 8 years ago. I was 6 months into a relationship, and things were turning more suspicious by the day. My heart was telling me that she was going to be my forever, but some odd behaviors were giving my gut a bad feeling. On this day, she and I were out with two of her girlfriends at a local pub. There were two people sitting at a table behind us, and they looked like they were on a date. At first, things were okay, and then it seemed like the girl got super drunk out of nowhere. She was literally passing out at the table, and the dude was just telling her that she was okay and that his friend was going to come pick up the two of them to take them back to his place. At this point, the four of us started paying attention to what was happening at the other table, and we soon started to suspect that girl had been roofied by her date. She then started slurring, no, get away from me, get away from me. And as soon as that happened, my ex's friends got up and brought her over to our table. I turned around to see where the guy went, and in the blink of an eye, he ran out the door, hopped in a creepy-looking minivan, and sped away. Whoa, we had spooked him. We took care of the girl, got her some water, and called her mom to come get her. We stayed with her until the mom arrived. Meanwhile, my ex didn't help at all. She was actually pissed at us and even more pissed at the girl who was about to become a victim of date rape. She just sat there and glared at all of us and even tried to convince us that girl didn't actually need our help, that she was faking it and a bunch of other BS. She actually stayed in this mood until the girl went home, and then we went back to our lunch. Why was my ex behaving like this? Simply put, the girl who got roofied took our attention away from her. All right, guys, welcome to part 2 of Understanding Narcissism. Last week in part 1, we discussed what narcissism is, the different subtypes, and a quick glimpse into red flags to look out for when you're meeting new people or dating a new person. Today is all about how to screen your next romantic partner for signs of narcissism. The harsh reality of dating is that it's not enough to just wait for the big, obvious red flags to appear to determine if this person is going to be a good fit for you. Oftentimes, narcs will put on their best behavior for you in the first 3 months until you're fully emotionally vested, and then true colors start to show. To recognize warning signs before this, we have to be proactive and go on the offensive to see how the person we're dating reacts to prompts that a healthy person has no problem answering or talking about. Now, this whole screening for narcissism thing that I'm going to lay out for you isn't to say that we should just put on our interrogation hat and start firing off questions one after the other on the first date. We have to work these prompts in naturally through the dating process. This is basically from the moment you meet her to the point that you decide that you want to become mutually exclusive. And also, this isn't a procedure to be implemented with every single girl you meet and decide to take on a date. You really only need to start screening if you get that feeling in your gut that something just isn't right. And yes, sometimes when we are dating normal people and they say something that makes our gut go, I don't know, screening them can reveal a perfectly good answer that gives you a sense that they are indeed normal. The whole point is to screen after the bad gut feeling anyway, and the answer will help you assess what kind of person is sitting in front of you. But how do we know what that gut feeling is? What are the signs that we should know to recognize before we determine if this is a girl we have to screen? We're going to cover both, how to know when to implement a screen and the screening prompts themselves. So, with all that in mind, let's dive right in. First, we're going to touch on red flags to look for, and then we're going to go into screening prompts. All right, first red flag, excessive charm and love bombing early on. She will shower you with compliments, make you feel like the center of her universe, and make you feel like a king. And to you, it will feel like too much too soon. This is a tactic to hook you in quickly. Then, after some time, she will withdraw that love bombing, and you'll be stuck wondering if she's still having those feelings for you. Basically, the affection will start becoming hot and cold. Next red flag, dominating conversations and self-centered focus. Every conversation you guys have is centered around her. She will just go on and on about stuff going on in her life. And if you try to edge out some words about yourself, she will redirect back to herself. If she does happen to ask you something like, So tell me about yourself. You can guarantee that she will eventually interject and start talking about herself again. Number 3, obsession with appearances and external validation. She's obsessed with her looks and will frequently check to see if her makeup and hair are still perfect, way more than normal. She will also fish for compliments on her looks, either from you or the bartender or whoever. She will also start judging other people on their looks. She may even start telling you stories about other dudes hitting on her nonstop and things of that nature. Number 4, using sexuality as manipulation. The sex will be frequent and amazing at first, but then she will withhold it if she doesn't get her way, or sometimes just for the hell of it. Again, this is another hot and cold scenario that will leave you confused. You might then become suspicious that she is seeing someone else that she doesn't want you to know about. Either way, this leads to you chasing her. She may also unabashedly flirt with other guys in front of you to make you jealous. Number 5, lack of empathy or dismissal of your feelings. If you tell her about some unfortunate thing that happened to you, she won't care. Sometimes she may just offer a superficial like, oh, that sucks, and then talk about how she went through a worse situation. She'll be dismissive, minimize, or just change the subject without offering any support. Number 6, entitlement and arrogant behavior. She'll demand special treatment and act superior to the waitstaff. She might be rude to them, and she may get upset if you butt in and tell the waitstaff, oh, you know what, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. If she wants to change the plans of the date in any which way, she will expect you to just go along with it, and she will get upset if you don't want to. Number 7, creating drama and gossiping excessively. She's always gossiping, talking trash, even on her family and friends. Drama, drama, drama. And it's always someone else that is doing mean things to her, always. She might even start drama with you for no reason. Like, if you smile and say thank you to a waitress in obviously a totally platonic way, she might get upset and start questioning you for it. Number 8, poor response to criticism or boundaries. Any feedback, even mild feedback, triggers her to become defensive. She might even start gaslighting you to make you think that you are actually the problem. Like, if you suggest slowing things down a bit, she will lash out and accuse you of not appreciating her, yada, 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 things like that. Number 9, attempts to isolate or control. She starts trying to pull you away from your friends and family in subtle ways, and she may use sex as leverage. For example, if she wants to go out and you say, no, you have a family engagement or a boys' night, she might get upset and make you seem like an asshole. She may guilt trip you in some way or promise to do XYZ sexy things to get you to cancel those plans. She may even spam you with texts while you're away from her and rope you into an argument or fake an emergency to make you leave and go be with her. Finally, number 10, insecurity masked as shyness or neediness. This one is a covert tactic. She may appear shy and vulnerable at first, but then start demanding your attention to comfort her in any way she requests. This pulls you into the caretaker role. She will reveal deep-seated insecurities on the first date or very soon after, and then she will start expecting you to help her deal with them at any time. So guys, all of these red flags should trigger that bad gut feeling. All of them. And remember, boys, noticing one or two of these red flags doesn't mean that you should just up and leave the date right away. I mean, obviously, if she gives off a big, super obvious red flag and acts a fool, yeah, go ahead and dip if you feel like it's the right thing to do. But it's the subtle red flags that are often overlooked that will tell you when it's time to screen. Also, keep in mind, getting to know a romantic interest is a two-way street. Conversations should be even-keeled. You ask about her, she asks about you, you listen to her, she listens to you. And women usually aren't the pushy ones. If you move too fast, either trying to lock her into a relationship or trying to get into her pants before she's ready, she will most likely pull back. A woman with a healthy self-esteem and respect for herself will not just give you the goods right away. The beginning of dating is a trial period where she needs to get to know you so she can assess if she feels safe around you. not only to allow herself to be vulnerable and disclose personal information to you, but also, of course, safe enough to go into a bedroom with you. These are green flags or normal dating behavior that will not give you that feeling in your gut. All right, so now that we have a good idea on the top 10 red flags to look out for, here are 8 excellent screening prompts. These are prompts that a healthy person should have no problem answering, but narcs will answer them in specific ways that can reveal their true colors. Narcs are super cunning and actually pretty intelligent, but for some reason, they can't help their reactions to the following prompts. But, of course, they love talking about themselves. So, the key here is to play into that by asking them questions and getting them to talk about things where the focus is solely on them. This way, we can play into their ego and get them to open up, which will reveal who they really are. So, as you're listening to the following prompts I'm going to lay out, I suggest making your own version of them. Again, this can't sound like an interview. When you get that gut feeling, you have to work them in naturally into the conversation, whether you're on the date, on the phone, or texting, or just interacting with her in general. First screening prompt. Get her to talk about a time when she messed up. For example, if she says something like, I got fired from that job because my boss just didn't like me, or some reason that seems suspicious to you. No one ever gets fired from a job for doing nothing wrong. And if it does happen, you can always sue for wrongful termination, at least here in the US, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. She may even say that she got in trouble with the law for, quote, doing nothing wrong. Either way, if she says that she was reprimanded or punished for something that totally wasn't her fault, this is when you should implement this prompt. You can ask her something like, wait, so you're telling me that you did nothing wrong? Like nothing at all? The key with this one is to see if she will admit fault. Narcissists struggle with admitting fault or showing any humility. Healthy people can laugh at their past mistakes, which is indicative that they have a growth mindset. A narc, on the other hand, will deny ever being wrong. They will always blame other people. While she is answering this prompt, she also may get defensive and irritated at you, or just change the conversation to pivot to one of her successes. All right, second prompt. Get her to explain why past relationships ended. When she is talking about a bad experience with an ex, you can ask her something like, wow, that's horrible. I'd be upset if someone did me dirty like that too. Wait, and so you're saying this is all this person's fault? Like there wasn't anything that you did wrong? Or you can say, oh, wow, so your ex just decided to break up with you out of nowhere? Like there wasn't anything you did to mess up the relationship? What you're doing is testing for empathy and accountability and self-reflection. A narcissist will blame her exes entirely. All of my exes were losers or jealous or insecure or they all cheated on me, shit like that. Anything that keeps her in the victim role. And again, you will also hear the I did nothing wrong thing. And you will also get a sense that she hasn't learned any lessons. Because obviously if she's dating the same types of guys over and over and over and over that are doing the same things to her over and over, she ain't learning anything. A normal person can admit where they went wrong in a relationship. Some cases are indeed one-sided, like someone who finds out their partner cheated on them and then broke up with them. Understandable. But most of the time a relationship ending is two-sided with things like bad communication, unreasonable expectations, loss of interest or attraction, shit like that. I actually asked that same ex from the story above about one of her exes. She had spent the last 20 minutes just talking shit on this dude that she dated 10 years prior. I had that bad gut feeling, so I asked her flat out, is there anything you think you did wrong in that relationship? She just tilted her head, thought for a few seconds and said, no, I don't think I did. All right, prompt number 3. Ask her, who is your favorite movie character or book hero of all time and why? What this is going to do is reveal her values and how she sees herself. If she picks a villain, like someone who was portrayed for abuse of power, or a villain who was able to trick people with their beauty or manipulation, or basically any reasons that focus on superiority and status, they'll actually paint the villain out to be the unsung hero. saying, well, most people just don't understand that character came from a bad upbringing, yada, yada, yada excuse for doing bad things to the protagonist. A normal person will usually pick the hero, someone who acted on their morals and kindness, or one who grew from past mistakes. So your narc is usually going to pick the villain, and a normal person is usually going to pick the good guy. Prompt number 4, get her to tell you how she handles criticism. You can do this by telling her a story about someone you know flipping out when you gave them a little criticism. You can say something like, your story kind of reminds me of a time I told my coworker they misunderstood the instructions for a project. It turned out to be a waste of time because they didn't understand that X was supposed to come before Y. And what's crazy is that coworker got mad at me instead. I personally hate that type of behavior, someone who can't admit fault or gets bent out of shape at the slightest hint of any sort of criticism. Wouldn't you feel the same way? And she'll probably say, oh my God, of course I would. That's not fair. And then you say, right? You don't do that, do you? You can handle criticism, right? If you're sitting in front of a narcissist, they will get really, really uncomfortable at this question. A normal person will be perfectly fine answering and saying something like, yeah, I can handle if it's constructive criticism, but if it's condescending, that's when I have a problem. And that's actually a massive green flag right there. And that's actually a screening question I asked my now wife when we were dating. She was complaining about work and how other people were messing up her ability to do her job effectively. I got a little bit of that gut feeling and I wasn't quite sure, so I asked her anyway. And her answer of being okay with constructive criticism made me feel a lot better. I actually wound up trusting her more after that. A narc, on the other hand, will most likely get visibly uncomfortable. This is what you have to look for, because they may say, oh yeah, sure I can. And if you see them get uncomfortable, you can probe further and ask them to give you an example of when they handled criticism well. This is most likely going to make them freeze up, or they will struggle to find examples, or they'll just redirect the blame at the other person. Well, this person blamed you for this, but they are actually the ones who messed up. Shit like that. Prompt number 5, get her to tell you about a time she helped someone out when they were really struggling. You can work this into your conversation like, I used to be friends with a guy who didn't like to help anyone. He would always want other people to help him with stuff he was going through, but he had no ability to help out his friends in need. He always had some excuse as to why he couldn't go out of his way, and it really didn't sit well with me. You seem like the type to help your friends in need, though, and she'll be like, oh yeah, that's me. And you'll say, oh good. Can you actually tell me about a time that you helped someone who was struggling? I love hearing these stories. What you were doing here is screening for empathy. If you're sitting with a narc, she may struggle to recall examples. She'll focus on how it benefited her instead, saying things like, they owed me after that. Or she brags about it or downplays the other people's pain. Or if she turns it into her own story. Prompt number 6, what is your biggest insecurity or weakness? Ask her about her greatest strength first, then ask the biggest weakness one. Narcissists hate vulnerability and they may mask it aggressively. They may deflect and say, I don't really have any weaknesses, or fake humility, and that sounds like, yeah, well, I'm too nice sometimes. Covert types might actually overshare dramatically to get you to sympathize with them and slip into the caretaker role. Prompt number 7, get her to talk about a time when she hurt someone else's feelings. You can say something like, something that is a red flag for me is someone who can't apologize if they hurt someone's feelings. How do you handle apologizing to someone that you've wronged? This is also another way to test empathy and accountability. She may be reluctant. She may say, I never need to. Or she sees apologies as a weakness or a loss of power. Then that's your answer right there. Number 8, get her to talk about what she appreciates in a partner or a friend and what's a total deal breaker for her. What this is going to do is reveal entitlement and one-sided expectations. She will describe someone who always puts her first, always supports my goals, my dreams, my aspirations, and the deal breakers will be centered on challenges to her ego. Someone who criticized her or not giving me space when I need attention, someone who didn't love me the way I deserve to be loved, bullshit like that. And here's a bonus, number 9. What would you do if the internet got wiped out for a month? Narcs are typically social media junkies. They can spam selfies. They use social media to see what people are up to so they can gossip or start drama. Social media is a huge source of the external validation they crave, and it's a great way to say some super mean shit from the comfort of their couch. A normal person would probably say, oh, I'd probably have more time to do normal things like go touch grass, go hiking, go see a movie. It would probably be a nice break to not have the internet for an entire month, actually. A narc would probably say it would basically be the end of the world for them. So there you go, guys. 9 screens that you can implement if you need to confirm that gut feeling. Again, there are many ways that you can ask these, and there are lots of other types of prompts out there. I encourage you to do some more research on your own so that you can be best prepared. And keep in mind, guys, that you don't have to limit your screens to the red flags you notice. For example, if she is constantly talking about herself, showing self-centeredness, you don't have to just ask her the internet question. You should still do different types of screens. Remember, we're trying to gather as much information as possible, and the different types of screening questions and prompts will give you insights into other symptoms of narcissism. Remember, from Narcs Part 1, we talked about a person having to fit into multiple symptoms to determine if they are indeed a narc. So use as many different prompts as you see fit. Now, it's important to note, in addition to listening to what this person is saying in their answer, we have to also be aware of their tone, their body language, and what they do afterwards. And what that means is that sometimes a question will upset them and they may ghost you for a few days, they may cut the date short, or act abnormally in some way, shape, or form. So keep that in mind if you see some kind of weird behavior afterwards. Okay, so what should you do after you've gotten some answers from your date? If some of their answers are indeed confirming that gut feeling, you need to go home and think about those answers. This evaluation needs to be made when you are away from her. It's really hard to try and evaluate things when she's still sitting there looking hot and giving you those seductive eyes. So once you wind up back at home by yourself, do some evaluating. Even better, if you're unsure about anything still, or still have that uncomfortable gut feeling, sharing your experience with family or friends will give you a much better perspective. Remember, rose-colored glasses make red flags look like normal flags. So asking a third party who doesn't have those feelings for the woman in question is a great way to get a more objective perspective. Also keep in mind, guys, narcs aren't all the same. No two narcissists will show the exact same symptoms in the exact same way. There's a little bit of variability from person to person, but this is where you need to adapt to the woman in question. There may be a time in the early stage of dating where you asked a few screening questions and they passed them well. But then, a few weeks down the road, you start noticing something is off. Remember, the narc will be on their best behavior for their first 1 to 3 months. At this point, we have to remember the red flags from above and give them another prompt to see how they react. Give them a test based on the behavior that is making your spidey senses tingle. For example, if you're getting feeling that she's getting envious at other people's success, share one of your wins with her. Say something like, hey, I finally finished that work project. A normal person is going to say something like, that's awesome. Congrats. You should tell me about it later. A narc will do anything but genuinely celebrate it with you. They will fake one if they have to, or deflect and bring the focus back onto themselves. That indicates self-centeredness and jealousy that you are succeeding and they are not. If you're questioning her ability to empathize, tell her that you had a bad day and see what she does. A normal person will say something like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk about it? A narc will get annoyed by this and either dismiss, minimize, or recenter back onto themselves. Look for changes in behavior from the first few weeks of dating in the honeymoon phase compared to the latter stages of dating, like when you're considering getting serious. If the screening questions she answered a while ago do not match her current behavioral patterns, dead giveaway. She may have been lying to you to get you to think that she is normal, and then she lets her guard down and does the opposite. Gather as much evidence and information as possible before you make the decision to get exclusive with this person. Zooming back a bit, narcs have extremely fragile egos. Their entire self-image is based on fear of having their ego hurt in any way. If you notice, all of the symptoms and red flags that we've talked about in these episodes have to do with their ego. If their self-image or ego is threatened in any way, they react negatively. A normal person will talk about most subjects that involve getting their ego bruised, like being wrong or getting attention taken away from them. Because, after all, admitting fault and doing the right thing is more important than keeping the ego intact. Narcs have no concept of this, and if you can expose a weakness in their ego, they will react negatively. Zooming out further, boys, one thing that is important to remember is that you should approach hanging out with or dating girls with an open and positive mindset. Show her a good time. If you're attracted to her, let yourself be attracted to her. Be in the moment with her. In other words, have fun. Relax. The red flags, if there are any, will reveal themselves to you, even if it's a small hint. Your gut will tell you what's up. That is when you implement a screen. And when you do, still keep the vibe fun, work in your screen, and she will open up. Then go from there. There are basically two things that you have to be aware of in the background when you're having fun and enjoying her company, whether she is a narc or not. And those two things are what your heart is saying and what your gut is trying to tell you. If, at any point, your gut is trying to tell you something, find a way to work in a screening prompt. Her response, both verbal and nonverbal, will either ease that gut feeling or confirm it. If another red flag is starting to peek out, prompt again appropriately. Just rinse and repeat. All right, guys, we're going to start to wrap up here. The purpose of this episode is not to scare you out of dating in general. There are plenty of healthy women out there dying to meet a stud just like you. And yeah, I can totally understand if you're feeling a little overwhelmed and scared after listening to these 2 episodes on Narcs, but honestly, learning about a tough subject like this is much better than realizing you're in a toxic relationship with a narc who is slowly dismantling your identity. That shit is scary. I've been in 3 different relationships with 3 different types of narcs, and each one screwed up parts of my life in different ways once I ditched them for good. Of course, no one is perfect in relationships. There were things that I messed up too. But my biggest mistake was staying in those relationships for way too long. Why? I didn't know how to spot red flags or implement screening prompts. Remember that story I told at the beginning? Yeah, I should have ditched her after that incident, but it took more bizarre narcissistic shit after that for me to finally pull the plug. So trust me when I say this, boys. It is extremely important that you know this information once you decide to jump back into the dating pool. You have now been armed with a sharp narc radar, better gut awareness, and screening prompts that can confirm that gut feeling. You are now way ahead of the game. Again, it is possible that you may not ever come across a narcissistic woman of interest, but still, it's always better to have and not need than to need and not have. At the end of the day, boys, I want you to have a successful dating life in this new chapter that you're in. And you should expect to be dating super high quality chicks if you are walking your new badass path. And as I mentioned before in that episode regarding the rebound, take some time to heal from your last relationship before you jump back into the dating pool. If you're still lonely, depressed, and lost over your ex, narcs will sniff you out like a shark. Narcs absolutely love vulnerable people because broken people are easy targets. A broken person's self-esteem and confidence are fractured, which gives the narc a perfect in to work their way into your head with love bombing and instantly filling the void in your heart. Don't let this be you. Take some time being single, work on yourself, rebuild your confidence identity for a bit before you jump back into the dating pool. The stronger person you become, the less narcs will want anything to do with you. They hate strong people. Strong people have firm boundaries. Strong people are not afraid to screen at the hint of a bad gut feeling, and they also have no problem saying no to anyone who isn't good for them. So take some time to yourself and work on that strength. Trust me, your dating prospects will be way better. In fact, your future will look a lot brighter. All right, guys, thanks for being with me today. Next week, we're talking about the other dark personalities, mainly focusing on the dark tetrad. Dark tetrads are more rare than narcs, but the damage they cause is fucking catastrophic. So stay tuned for that deep dive. And yeah, even more spooky stories. And in the meantime, boys, take care, keep walking your path, and trust your gut. See you next week. Thank you for joining me in another badass episode, brother. If you want to accelerate into this new chapter in your life and get a boost into your badass journey, sign up for a free 45-minute consultation for post-breakup or divorce coaching. All the info is in the episode description. Also, please remember to like and comment. And if you know anyone who could use this info in their badass journey, please share this episode with them. None of this would be possible without you guys. So thank you again. And I will see you in the next episode.